Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of the Intern's Uncanny Oddities from around the world. Today we will be discussing the Tuatha de Danann, which is means the folk of the goddess Danu, also known by the earlier name Tuatha de Danann. They are a supernatural race in Irish mythology. Many of them are thought to represent deities of pre-Christian Gaelic Ireland. The Tuatha Dé are often depicted as kings, queens, druids, bards, warriors, heroes, healers, and craftsmen who have supernatural powers. Sorry. Okay. They dwell in the otherworld but interact with humans in the human world. They are associated with the Cité, a prominent ancient burial mounds such as Bruneborne, which are entrances to otherworld realms. Their traditional rivals are the Fomorians, or the Fomor, who might represent the destructive powers of nature, and whom the Tuatha defeat in the Battle of Mag Tirade. Prominent members of the Tuatha include the Dagda, or the Great God, the Morrigan, the Great Queen or Phantom Queen, Lu, Nuada, Aengus, Brigid, Mananan, Dianset the Healer, and Goibnuil the Smith, one of the Tri de Danana, three gods of craft. Now, several of the Tuatha are cognate with ancient Celtic deities, Lu with Lugus, Brigitte with Brigitania, Nuada with Nodons, Agma with Ogmios, and Goibniu with Gabanus. Medieval texts about the Tuatha were written by Christians. Sometimes they explained the Tuatha as fallen angels who were neither wholly good nor evil, or ancient people who became highly skilled in magic. But several writers acknowledged that at least some of them had been gods. Some of them have multiple names, but in the tales they often appear to be different characters. Originally, these probably represented different aspects of the same deity, while the others were regional names. The Tuatha eventually became the Aesidi, or the city folk or fairies of later folklore, as we briefly mentioned in our fairy episode, if you watched that one. Now, as for the origins of their name, the Old Irish word Tuath, the plural of Tuatha, means tribe, folk, or people. De is the genitive case of dia, and depending on the context, can mean god, gods, goddess, or more broadly, supernatural being, object of worship. In the earliest writings, the mythical race are referred to as the Tuatha, tribe of gods, or Tuatha, tribes of gods. In the Lebor Bretonnac, their name is translated into Latin as plebs deorum, or godfolk. However, Irish monks also began using the term Tuatha to refer to the Israelites, with the meaning people of God. Apparently, to avoid confusion with the Israelites, writers began to refer to the mythical race as the Tuatha de Danann or Tuatha de Danann, depending on the Old Irish pronunciation or the newer pronunciation. This is generally translated as folk of the goddess Danu. It may also have been a way of humanizing them. Instead of god folk, they were now the folk of a particular goddess. Early Christian writers also referred to them as the Ferde, godmen, and Senelidae, or god kindreds, again possibly to avoid calling them simply gods. Some of the Tuatha are occasionally called the clan Elidan, or children of art. Now let's just go down a little bit more and let's talk about their legend. So, in Yum, okay, I've honestly never even heard of this word, so I'm probably going to butcher it, but I'm going to try my best. Ehumorized. Apparently, humorism is an approach to the interpretation of mythology in which mythological accounts are presumed to have originated from real historical events or personages. Humorism supposes that historical accounts become myths as they are exaggerated in retelling. Okay, so it might be kind of like Sun Wukong in Journey to the West, because I've heard stories that that was based on a king, but that's beside our point right now. Anyways, the Tuatha De Danann were descended from Nemed, leader of a previous wave of inhabitants of Ireland. In non-ehumorized accounts, they are descended from Danu, Anu, a mother goddess. They came from 4 cities to the north of Ireland, Fallius, Glorious, Murius, and Phineas, where they taught their skills in the sciences, including architecture, the arts, and magic. According to Lebor Gabala Arin, they came to Ireland in dark clouds and landed on the mountains of the Conmachne Rain in Connacht, otherwise Sliabe and Lararin, and they brought a darkness over the sun for 3 days and 3 nights. They immediately burnt the ships so that they should not think of retreating to them, and the smoke and the mist that came from the vessels filled the neighboring land and air. Therefore it was conceived that they had arrived in clouds of mist. A poem in the Lebor Gabala Erin says of their arrival, "It is God who suffered them, though he restrained them. They landed with horror, with lofty deed, in the cloud of mighty combat of spectres, upon a mountain of Conmachne of Connacht, without distinction to discerning Ireland, without ships of ruthless course. The truth was not known beneath the sky of stars, whether they were of heaven or of earth." According to Tuan, from them are the Tuatha and Ande, whose origin the learned do not know, but that it seems likely to them that they came from heaven on account of their intelligence and for the excellence of their knowledge. So basically, they assume they came from heaven because they were so intelligent. They were led by King Nuada. They fought the first battle of Mag Tuatha on the west coast, in which they defeated and displaced the native Firbolg, which then inhabited Ireland. In the battle, Nuada lost an arm to their champion, Shring. Since Nuada was no longer unblemished, he could not continue as king, and was replaced by the half-Fomorian Brez, who turned out to be a tyrant. The physician Dian Sect replaced Nuada's arm with a working silver one, and he was reinstated as king. However, Dian Sect's son, Miak, was dissatisfied with the replacement, so he recited the spell Alt Free Halt Di Faith Free Feth, joint to joint of it and sinew to sinew, which caused flesh to grow over the silver prosthesis over the course of 9 days and nights. However, in a fit of jealous rage, Dien Shet slew his own son. Because of Nwada's restoration as the leader, Brez complained to his family and his father Elatha, who sent him to seek assistance from Baelor, king of the Fomorians. The Tuatha De Danann then fought the second battle of Mag Turiado against the Fomorians. Nuada was killed by the Fomorian king Baelor's poisonous eye, but Baelor was killed by Lu, champion of the Tuatha De, who then took over as king. A third battle was fought against a subsequent wave of invaders known as the Milesians from the northwest of the Iberian Peninsula, which is present-day Galicia and northern Portugal. Descendants of Mielispane are thought to represent the Goidelic Celts. The Milesians encountered 3 Tuatha De Danann goddesses, Inu, Banba, and Fodia, who asked that the island be named after them. Eriu is the origin of the modern name Ere, and Banba and Fodia are still sometimes used as poetic names for Ireland. Their 3 husbands, Mac Gael, Mac Ket, and Mac Graine, were kings of the Tuatha De Danann at the time, and asked for a truce of 3 days, during which the Milesians would lie at anchor 9 waves distance from the shore. The Milesians complied, but the Tuatha De Danann created a magical storm in an attempt to drive them away. The Milesian poet Emergin, hang on 1 second, please. Sorry, my mouth is getting very dry, to be honest with you. The Milesian poet Emergin calmed the sea with his verse. Then his people landed and defeated the Tuatha De Danann at Tailitio. When Emergin was called upon to divide, divide, sorry, divide the land between the Tuatha De Danann and his own people, he cleverly allotted the portion above ground to the Milesians and the portion underground to the Tuatha De Danann. The Tuatha De Danann were led underground into the Side Mountains by Manan Mac Lir and Tir na Nog onto a flowery plain of honey attested to in the voyage of Bran. Now, the four treasures of the Tuatha De Danann, which were brought with them to Ireland, one each for their four cities, were known as Dagda's Cauldron, the Spear of Lu, Liafel, or the Stone of Fall, and Cleom Soleil, or the Sword of Light. And yes, I did get some pictures of them. If I didn't explain already, this is an interpretation of what the Tuatha De Danann may have looked like, or the riders of the city. This is an image of the Liafel, or the Stone of Fall. This is Dagda's Cauldron, right here. It's got some nice little artistry here. Looks like a bearded face here. And is that some hands, maybe? Oh, look, he's throwing up he's doing a little dance. Look, I think it's a little man doing a little dance, and he's got a beard, and he's got another person dancing over here on this shoulder, and then a horse riding up his arm over here. And then there's someone else dancing, like maybe a giant. And then over here, this dude, he's got bug eyes over here. Look, this dude has bug eyes. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's pretty interesting. Why are his hands so tiny? Look, I think this is his shoulder. There's his arm. And there's a little baby hand. He got little baby hands. Aw, that's cool. And then let's see what else we got. This is the Cleoma Soleil, or the Sword of Light. Here's another image of the Liafel. And here is an image of the Spear of Lu. So let's go ahead and go back, and we will start with the Spear of Lu right here. Let's go ahead and, there we go. That's better. We will start with discussing that one. So Lu's spear, known as Slig, according to the text of the four jewels of the Tuatha De Danann, was said to be impossible to overcome. Taken to Ireland from Gordius or Findius, Lu obtained the spear of Asil as fine imposed on the children of Turiel Picreo or Bicreo, according to the short account in Lebor Gabala Erin, which adds that the incantation Ibar, or you, made the castaway always hit its mark, and Athibar, Reyu, caused the spear to return. In a full narrative version called Aloide Cloine Torian, or The Fate of the Children of Torian, from copies no earlier than the 17th century, Lu demands the spear named Aidbar or Ardiedbar, early modern Irish Anidbain, which belonged to Pisir, king of Persia. Ardiedbar's tip had to be kept immersed in a pot of water to keep it from igniting. a property similar to the Luin of Celtchar. This spear is also called Slaughterer in translation. There is yet another name that Lu's spear goes by, a yew tree, the finest of the wood, or in early modern Irish, Eo boy hale di fledbabe, occurring in an inserted verse within The Fate of the Children of Turin. The famous yew of the wood, Ibar ale Fidbaida, is also the name that Lu's spear is given in a tract which alleges that the Luin of Celtchar, and the spear Crimal that blinded Cormac Mac Airt were one and the same weapon. Now, Lu's projectile weapon, whether a dart or missile, was envisioned to be symbolic of lightning weapon. Lu's sling rod, named Lu's chain, was the rainbow and the Milky Way, according to popular writer Charles Squire. Now Squire adds that Lu's spear, which needed no wielding, was alive, and thirsted so for blood that only by steeping its head in a sleeping draught of pounded fresh poppy leaves could it be kept at rest. When a battle was near, it was drawn out. Then it roared and struggled against its thongs. Fire flashed from it, and it tore through the ranks of the enemy. Once slipped from the leash, never tired of slaying. And then let's go ahead and start discussing the Lia Fail, this stone over here. So the Fal, or Lia Fail, is a stone at the inauguration mound on the hill of Tuatha in County Meath, Ireland, which served as the coronation stone for the King of Tuatha and hence High King of Ireland. It is also known as the Stone of Destiny or Speaking Stone. According to legend, all kings of Ireland were crowned on the stone up to Mir Chertach Mac Adke. Now, for the mythical origin of the stone, there are several very different and conflicting legends in Irish mythology describing how the Lia Fail is said to have been brought to Ireland. The Leborg Bala, dating to the 11th century, states that it was brought in antiquity by the semi-divine race known as the Tuatha de Danann. The Tuatha de Danann had traveled to the Northern Isles, where they learned many skills and magic in its four cities, Falius, Gordius, Muidius, and Findius. From there, they traveled to Ireland, bringing with them a treasure from each city, the four legendary treasures of Ireland, as we are discussing now. From Falius came the Lia Fal. The other three treasures are the Cleomisale, or Sword of Light, the Sleabua, or Spear of Lu, as we just discussed, and the Quodia Dagde, or the Dagda's Cauldron, as we will be discussing briefly. Some Scottish chroniclers, such as John of Fordun and Hector Boyce from the 13th century, treat the Lia Fal the same as the Stone of Scone in Scotland. According to this account, the Lia Fal left Tara in AD 500 when the High King of Ireland, Murtagh MacSiach, loaned it to his great uncle, Fergus, later known as Fergus the Great, for the latter's coronation in Scotland. Fergus's subkingdom, Dal Riada, had by this time expanded to include the northeast part of Ulster and parts of western Scotland. Not long after Fergus's coronation in Scotland, he and his inner circle were caught in a freak storm off the County Antrim coast in which all perished. The stone remained in Scotland, which is why Murtagh MacAirc is recorded in history as the last Irish king to be crowned on it. However, historian William Forbes Skinny commented, "It is somewhat remarkable that while the Scottish legend brings the stone at Scone from Ireland, the Irish legend brings the stone at Tara from Scotland." The Dinsinchas recording a tradition from the early Irish literature and echoing ancient legends, reports that Leofel would roar in the presence of a false king pretending to hold dominion in Ireland. According to one version of Gaelic myth surrounding the Leofel stone, a myth more associated with the stone of Scone, the sacred stone arrived by ship belonging to the Iberian Danann into the ancient port of Fergus, about 580 BC. On board was Eochaidhe, son of a high king and a descendant of Erimon, Princess Tefi, and the scribe Simon Broch. Princess T also had in her possession an ancient harp, whose origins some believe lie in the house of David. The stone was delivered to the hill of Tuatha by the three. Scota later married High King Eochaid. Both had previously met each other in Jerusalem. Eochaid recovered in the ancient stone in Jerusalem before the invasion of the Babylonians. It is said all future Irish high kings and British monarchs inaugurated by the stone have tried to prove lineage back to the royal sage and his wife Tuatha, the original bearers of the stone. Eochaidhe's resting place is said to be the Neolithic passage tune Cairn T at Locru. Now, as for mythical powers, the Leofel was thought to be magical. When the rightful High King of Ireland put his feet on it, the stone was said to roar in joy. The stone is also credited with the power to rejuvenate the king and also to endow him with a long reign. According to Le Borgabala Erin, Cuchulainn split it with his sword when it failed to cry out under his protege. Ooh, we should do an episode about Cuchulainn in the future. He's really cool. I like him. But anyways, future, not now. Lugaid Riab Indirg, from then on, it never cried out again, except under Khan of the 100 Battles, and according to legend, at the coronation of Brian Boru in 1002. Now, next we're going to talk about Cleoma Soleil, or the Sword of Light. And this is getting a bit longer than I expected, so I don't think we're actually going to get into the Dagda's pot today. We could do a future episode on Dagda's pot, and I'll see if I can find enough stuff on it. So for today, we're just going to stick to the Sword of Light, and then we're going to go ahead and end it because this is getting a little bit long at this point. So I don't know if we're going to have time to do the pot, but I don't know. Hold on. You know what? Let me see. Yeah. We're not going to have time to do the cauldron today. I'm sorry. Maybe we could do something on it in the future. But anyways, the Sword of Light, or Claimdim Soli, is a trope object that appears in a number of Irish and Scottish Gaelic folk tales. The quest for Sword of Light formula is catalogued as motif H1337. The sword appears commonly as a quest object in the Irish folktale of a hero seeking the one story, or the cause of the one story about women, which culminates in the discovery of a tale of the werewolf, a man magically turned wolf by an unfaithful wife. However, the sword is uninvolved in the man-wolf portion, and only figures in the hero adventure frame story. The Sword of Light, according to a different commentator, is a fixture of an Irish tale group describable as a quasi-bridal quest. This characterization is inspired by the formula where the hero gains a beautiful wife and riches by gambling against a Grugrak, aka wizard champion, but suffers losses which makes him beholden to mount on a hopeless seeming quest. Like the actual Giant's Daughter bridal quest tales, the Sword of Light hero often gains assistance of helpful animals in completing his tasks or ordeals. The sword has been regarded as a legacy to the god-slaying weapons of Irish mythology by certain scholars, such as T.F.O. Rahili, the analogs being the primeval Celtic deity's lightning weapon, Loosling, that felled Baelor, the hero Cuchulain's supernatural spear Gaybolg, and his shining sword Creadine Catutichin. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do an episode about Cuchulain at some point in the future. Now, more about this sword, though. More about the Claim Soleil. The folk tales featuring the Sword of Light may be bridal quests, and the hero's would-be bride often becomes the hero's helper. But also, typically, the story is a sort of quasi-bridal quest, where the hero wins a bride by a wager, but then suffers a loss, becoming oath-bound to never come home until he has completed the quest for the sword and other objectives. The opponent who tempts the hero with this gambling game is usually a Grugak, or wizard champion, or even a wizard or druid, and the sword's keeper is often a giant, or hag, or a sibling of the wizard. The sword keeper oftentimes must be defeated, which is not possible except by some secret means. Thus, the hero or helper may resort to the Sword of Light as the only effective weapon against this enemy, but often the sword is not enough, and the supernatural enemy has to be attacked on a single vulnerable spot. The weak spot, however, may be an external soul, concealed somewhere in the world at large, such as inside animals, in a mountain, etc. Or, as in the case of the young king of Iesi de Rodai, this external soul is encased within a nested series of animals. Typically bound up with the quest for the Sword of Light is the quest for the one story, Truth About Women, namely, the story of the faithless wife who transforms her husband into a wolf. The hero in some examples are compelled to perform 3 sets of tasks, aided by helpers who may be the would-be bride, helpful animals, or a supernatural being, little green or red man. And that is all we have for today. And that has been everything we know about the Tuatha de Danann. Thank you for coming to hang out. It was good to see you all. Thank you for continuing to give us your support. And next week, we will be doing a surprise episode where we will not be revealing the topic until the day of. But look forward because we will be having a surprise guest that night. Yep, we will be having our very first guest on the Intern's Oddities from around the world. And I guess I can go ahead and tell you who it'll be just to go ahead and hype it up and get you all excited. Next week, we will be doing a very special episode with a very special guest star, one of our friends over on Twitch. You may or may not know him as Uncanny Alchemist has agreed to be my very first guest next week for a very special topic. And we will be discussing that on the night of. So I hope you look forward to that, and we will see you next week on the Intern's Oddities from around the world. Thank you, and have a good day.